Hello and welcome to the Career Success Podcast. I'm Jason Connolly. If you're a regular listener, it's great to have you back. But if you're new, a big welcome to the show. In this series every week, we speak to the biggest names in business all across the globe. We talk about their career stories, the lessons learned, how they overcome challenges, and what success habits they practice. This is practical advice to help you in your career. If you have a passion for business, then this is the podcast for you. In this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Jane Ferré from London. Jane offers private career coaching for senior HR professionals who've outgrown their current role and want to secure their dream role in their dream company with a dream package in less than 6 months. Jane came to this after experiencing redundancy not once, but twice in 1 year. Once her choice, the other not. Before setting up her own coaching practice, she had 20 plus years career in senior HR roles such as HR business partner, head of leadership development and head of talent at British Airways before joining Leon Restaurants as their very first head of training. All of this means that Jane has been active in the job market in recent years. She understands exactly how much effort you need to put into each job application and how frustrating it can be when you get ghosted after an interview. She has also been on the other side of the recruitment table, so knows exactly what recruitment managers are looking for. Jane, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. This has been a mission to get this date in the diary, and I'm delighted we've made it happen.
Oh, thank you. So 20 plus years in HR. We're not going to unpack that all in this episode, but give us kind of a whistle-stop tour of the highlights and how you've got to where it is where you are now, because the British Airways, Leon, these are all very well-known brand names.
Yeah, I mean, I joined BA not in HR at all. I joined BA in revenue management. I mean, you couldn't get any further from HR. It was literally like a giant game of Tetris because I was in the cargo department. Who knew British Airways had a cargo department? I didn't when I applied. And it was basically for, how much of this cargo can we get on each plane and make as much money as possible? But what that did is it taught me everything about aeroplanes, and I can geek out on, a whole heap of things.
So can I. Having worked at Virgin, we could spend the whole time talking about 737s, but
we could just talk planes. It's just so long since we've been on one. That's the challenge right
Indeed.
Now. But that kind of catapulted me into the training team. So I had we were moving buildings, and when they do this big sheep dip thing where it's like, let's take you round and show you where everything is and where the entrance is. And I was chatting with the trainers, and they said, you'd be a brilliant trainer. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then they said, oh, we've got a job vacancy right now. I went, oh, that's interesting. They said, yeah, it closes tomorrow, so get your CV in right now. So I literally ran home, wrote my CV, applied for the job, and that was my kind of entry into HR. And I've always had that kind of training element. So it kind of went to training, and I worked on some big corporate programs that we were running kind of internally, like putting people first, and then putting people first again, and owning our future, and those big kind of sheep dip things we used to call them, where everybody comes along and goes through this sheep dip of information. And then it kind of moved into leadership development, and then more into the kind of what I call the more generalist HR, so the sort of HR business partner type role, which I tell you is one of the best roles in HR, because you do everything. You're like this interface between the HR experts, which I think is particularly overrated, I have to say, as a phrase, the HR experts and the operation and the business. And it's just, if you're being a proper proper strategic HR business partner, you are at the heart of the decisions of your business unit. My passion is the people bit. My passion is the talent. So that was my dream job. And when that came up as, being advertised, it's like, this is mine. I am going to do everything in my power to get this job because it's everything that I am passionate about. So it's that strategic look at where the business is going, and then thinking about, right, so what do we need as an emergency cover, because there's lots of regulations around who needs to be in what role, short, medium and long term. And we're kind of looking at 5-10 years out in the business, going, what types of roles do we need in our business and how are we going to recruit them? And it's just this massive puzzle, which is just as exciting. And then you're looking at your internal talent, thinking, how can we develop our talent, and who are they, and how can I change the look and the diversity of our leadership team, which is made up of engineers, accountants, lawyers. Nothing wrong with engineers, accountants, and lawyers, but they all think in exactly the same way. And you can't run a business like British Airways, which is a customer experience business, as well as a flying planes business, when you've got lots of left brain people. You need some creatives in there. So that was my mission, was to change the look of the business at the top.
What was your biggest challenge when you first went into that role?
I think it was actually the definition of talent, because you can have lots of definitions. So you can have the approach of everyone's talent in the organization, and that's kind of nice. Or you can have the kind of, well, our talent is the high potentials in the business. So you've got to get really clear on what you mean by talent, first of all. And for me, certainly in that role, it was about who's the high potential in the organization. And it's about spotting your talent early on. So you've got, your different streams of talent pools. So you've got, your graduates, you've got the people that you buy in from outside, to do a particular job. You've got people that will be sort of seconded around the business. But I think it's having that, it's getting business areas to let go of their talent, so that the talent can go and get a wider experience of the business. They'll come back to you. It's like, don't worry, they'll come back to you better than so don't hang on to your talent. So that was a real challenge in the business, is persuading the business leaders to kind of let go of their talent. And it's like, we're going to give you someone else. So and you're being a corporate citizen by playing the talent game.
Yeah, and it must have been, to identify talent in an organization of that size, and to kind of have a streamlined process that allows you to nurture that and kind of get that talent to move kind of into the right position. It sounds logistically challenging.
It wasn't, because actually it's quite a simple process. It's like, you've got one succession plan, which again is where being a business partner beforehand, I had great relationships with the business partners. I knew that they were the key to get it, sort of filling names on my spreadsheet, or because actually that's all a succession plan is. It's a spreadsheet, but it should be a living, breathing document. It's not something that, in the past we've done it and then you shove it in a drawer, and then you find you've got this vacancy at very senior level, and then we start scratching our heads wondering how to fill it. And it's like, no, now what we need to do is we need to pull out that succession plan, go, right, who is ready now? Shall we just appoint those people? If it's a promotion, let's work through a process. What scaffolding and support are we going to put around that person so that they can succeed in that role? Because so often you promote people and then you go, oh, they're not very good. You're like, well, you haven't helped them. You've just promoted them, given them a job title and a pay rise. I just expected them to get on with it. What we need to do is we need to help them to be successful. So let's get them, a first 90-day coach. Let's get them a mentor in the business. Let's get them some sort of outside development. But the thing in somewhere like BA is we try to give everybody the same to be fair. And it's like, that's the wrong answer, because everybody is different and everybody needs different things. So let's try and personalize it, which when you say that your talent is your high potential, it's a much smaller pool that you're dealing with. And you can be much more, not refined, kind of bespoke in terms of your approach to your talent, and you get a better result.
How would you want to identify sort of high performing talent? What is it that you're kind of looking for? Is it different in each area? Or what would make you suddenly go, oh, right, okay, this is someone we need to have on our spreadsheet of talents?
So I think there's a bit around performance, because your high potentials are rarely low performers, unless they're in what I would call a stretch role. So we might move them into a stretch role where they don't necessarily fly, but it's the purpose of them being in that role is that they learn. So it's almost like, actually, in terms of our performers right now, who are our great performers? So something about that. The big thing for me that I used to kick back a lot with the business areas was they don't have the will. And that's a big thing for me, because it's like, don't tell me that this person here is high potential when they're not interested right now, because it's always a snapshot. They're not interested in doing a bigger, more challenging role, and it can be for a variety of reasons, but it's just that they've got something else going on. So don't nominate them as high potential talent, because they're brilliant right now. it's like,
they're
have they
great
got,
in the role they're doing, but are they
they're
someone
great in the
that's
role
going to
they're
go the
doing.
full sort of ticket?
Yeah. And it's, and the question was always how far and how fast, right? So how far are they going to go and how fast are they going to go? And and very often I would have a conversation with them, and they could be on, there was this real thing, because it's like, well, I don't want to say that I'm not interested, because then that might mean that I don't get any other opportunities. So it was like having a really honest conversation with people to go, actually, we really value you, we really value what you bring to the business, we think you have got more in the tank. What do you think? Are you interested? Because if you are, it's going to mean, stretch projects, different, we will move you to different areas of the business. We will invest in you. How do you feel about that? And some people are really up for it. And some people are just like, do you know what? I am, but not right now. Come back in a year's time. And it's like, you just got to respect that and work with people, but you got to work with people who want it, because if the will isn't there, then forget it, it's not going to happen. And I mean that with love. It's like, let's work on getting you to continue to be successful where you are, but let's not put any other pressure on you, because it's not going to work, and it's not going to work for the business either.
Interesting. And then you went from that position as head of leadership development to and you were head of talent.
Yeah, that was really the head of talent stuff. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. Interesting. So what made you leave BA?
My role became redundant. So I was given the opportunity. So this is classic BA. And I kind of say this tongue in cheek, because I think, well, if I hadn't left then, I'd have left now anyway. There's a classic opportunity. We're going to take 3 roles. So we're going to take head of talent, head of leadership development, and head of performance management. We're going to put those together in one job and give you the opportunity to apply for this job. And I was like, I don't want that job. I've done leadership development. I want to do the talent. The performance management was like this poison chalice that basically I really didn't want. And I knew that I wouldn't succeed in that role, because I just...
Sounds like a very negative role.
It's a really negative role. Yeah. And I was just like, I haven't got the energy for that.
It's disciplinary central.
Well, it was more, there was a lot about what's your strategy around this. And it was about, how do we roll out performance management in non-performance management grades? And I'm just like, oh God, that just sounds like pushing, like wading through treacle. And I'm really, no thanks for the opportunity. And I just thought, like, suddenly, I had a great career in BA, and I would never, like, it has provided me with so much that I use today in terms of experience and skills. And I just thought, I'm 46 at the time. I've been here 20 years, which has gone in a flash. I've had all these crazy opportunities. If I don't leave now, I am going to be that miserable 50-something-year-old who's seen it all before. Yeah, we've tried this before. And it's like, I don't want to become that person. And I thought, if I don't go now, when am I going to go?
Sometimes it's about knowing when you've kind of, you've been there, you've done what you needed to do, you've had a great experience, and it's knowing when, the time is right to move on. And it sounded like a very natural, decision, but in front of you, and you wisely made that decision. So then you went on to join Leon Restaurants, who I'm sure we all know as their very first head of training. Briefly tell us about that, because I really want to kind of get on to what you've kind of learned and what you do now, and all about kind of, developing people and so on.
Yeah, well, it was a really exciting opportunity. And I kind of tapped into kind of what I do with my clients now, which is really around what's important to me, what type of organization do I want to work for. And I was tired of working for this behemoth of a business that we used to describe as a super tanker, that just, you make a decision, then it takes weeks to turn and make stuff happen. Leon was the complete very hierarchical, bureaucratic, risk averse, like, which it needs to be in the business it's in, but it's tiresome. And I just thought, I need the antithesis of that, and that is Leon. It's small enough to get my hands around, it's energetic, the CEO was the co-founder, it's just, it's and they are way off where they need to be and know where they need to get to. And they actually became a teenager when I was there. So it's almost like literally they were having these hormonal things going on because they're growing too big, and they haven't got the systems and processes in place. So for me, it was this perfect mix of they need somebody who can bring in systems, processes, discipline to the team, develop the team, whilst still maintaining the stuff that makes Leon, which is the fun and the energy and the passion about the food. And it was just the perfect job. I started in the May. 2 weeks before Christmas, I got sent a letter inviting me to a meeting to discuss my future employment. Now, any HR person knows that what that means is there is no future employment. And there had been some VC investment. We needed to lose money from head office. So it's never the finance team that goes in those scenarios. It's always the training, the people. So
very
my
backwards
role,
minded.
you know,
and
what matters is
the finance team don't exist without the people front of house. That's just surely that's just common sense.
But it's crazy because in an organization like that, they kind of get it. I almost kind of went, but you're just the same as all those big corporates that you claim not to be like, because this is exactly the decision that a big corporate would make, and you've just gone and followed suit, whereas everything, or your leaflet, you know, or your kind of collateral around why you join us, because of the people and the investment, and it's like, and you've just turned that on its head. So, you know, it was kind of a short-lived opportunity. It was incredible. It was like an affair, you know, you have this like mad, crazy affair, and it was fantastic. And then it comes to an end. And so I find myself at the end of 2017 going, right, I've just had 2 redundancies in 1 year. One was my choice, one was not. One was very slow and drawn out. The other one was pretty much overnight. And what do I do next, really? So that it was almost like this 2017 was this year of crazy things happening.
And so obviously, you know, that must have really been thought-provoking and made you think, you know, what is it I want to do next? So that kind of paved the way into you starting your career coaching business for other HR professionals.
Yeah, I mean, literally, when I finished at Leon, it was 2 weeks before Christmas. I sat on the sofa, drank wine, ate chocolate, watched The Crown, binging, and then kind of came out of that stupor in the new year, and just we kind of this reflex, we just start looking for a job. But I kind of picked up everything that I'd learned because I'd had support, outplacement support on leaving BA. And it was really that thing about, right, what do I really want to do? So I almost self-coached. And whilst I was at BA, I was what we call a job plus coach. So I did my Ashridge training there. I was coaching people whilst, you know, doing my day job. And I loved that. I loved that change. And I just thought, again, it's one of those things which is if it's like an itch you've got to scratch. If I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? And I just thought, and I was applying for jobs, and I was trying to set up a business, and I was doing neither one very well, because I knew that really what I wanted to do was try my hand at setting up a business. So I just kind of bit the bullet, took that leap of faith, and kind of went, right, let's do this thing.
And tell us how it's evolved since that time.
Well, I think I think what's really hard is when you've had such a long time in a, you know, in an industry like HR, you can do so much. And as a bit, what I then learned is that as a business provider, you can't offer everything because it confuses people. So actually what you need to be is very, very clear. So, you know, you've said a couple of times, I'm a career coach for HR professionals, and I get 2 types of message. I get, oh God, I'm that frustrated HR professional. And then I had one today, which is, I think a marine engineer, but someone recommended you. Would you still help me? And I'm like, of course, the process is exactly the same. But, you know, right now, you know, there's this triumvirate of legal, HR and finance who are at the heart, certainly in the UK, of all these decisions trying to figure out the changes in legislation and furlough and, you know, redundancies. And what happens with HR people is they spend all their time helping everybody else figure out what's going on, and they leave themselves to the end. And then they're kind of spent. And then this has happened to me. I ended up when I was in the kind of, job club groups, I was looked at as the HR person, and I went and I helped everybody. And I was like, oh, well, I kind of didn't really get much from that, because I need somebody to help me. And it's almost like that kind of became my passion and my mission, to help the HR people, because it's like, you've got to put yourself first in this scenario.
Well, I've never come across, obviously, I've come across a lot of career coaches, and there's no shortage of them. But I think the fact that you specialize in this area, and I think what you said about kind of self-love and HR professionals, not often having that time to actually step back and think about their own career. Now, one thing I said in the introduction, which it was in your intro, was you often you want to help people secure their dream role in their dream company with their dream package. This is all sounding very much like a great dream, in less than 6 months. Talk us through how you achieve such a feat.
So, I mean, I think it's interesting, actually, because some people go, oh, 6 months is a long time. And I go, no, actually, it's quite realistic.
It's not very long.
it's quite realistic. We almost fast track the process. So the first thing that we do is we look at your own personal values and how those anchor your career, and then think about the jobs that you've had in the past and where those values have been kind of nourished or not. And that is a massive light bulb moment for people, because they go, oh my God, that's why I hated that job, because it was against everything that I stand for, or everything that is against what's really important to me. And then get really clear on actually what's your target market. So what's the type of industry, what type of organization, do you want to work for the agile kind of startup? Do you want to work public sector? Is it private sector? Is it big corporate, big four? What, where is it that you see yourself? Because they're very, very different kind of organizations.
Very interesting that you say that as well, because it just got me instantly thinking why I loved Virgin Atlantic so much when I worked there, because their values did align with my values.
Yeah.
And they probably still do. Why was I not so keen on the police, and why was that not the ultimate career dream for me? Because I believe in freedom of speech and things like that, that the police maybe doesn't encourage. It encourages you to enforce the law and deal with everything
and conform.
And I'm not someone that wants to conform if I don't believe in something. So when you said that, it instantly got me thinking, and it's very, very true. But carry on, Jane.
It's a really powerful exercise, because we don't ever look at values, or if you ever ask someone, what are your values, people come up with all this vanilla stuff that I was going to swear then. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to swear.
You can swear if you like, I don't mind.
Oh, this vanilla bullshit words, which is like, yeah, that's the same as everybody else. And it's like, do you really believe that? And it's like, no, tell me, like I've got this exercise that we do, and people are always surprised, because money comes out high in a lot of my clients, and they always go like, oh God, I put money is one of my top 7. That's really surprised me. And I'm like, why? You're a successful person. You've got a particular lifestyle that you need to finance, and that money is therefore important, especially if you've got 3 kids' school fees to find, it is really important.
I'd be surprised if money didn't come up in the top 7. I'd be questioning, why is money not on the top 7? I wouldn't. Yeah. I think in the modern day, I don't expect it to necessarily be 1, 2, or even 3. I think we've all kind of woken up to, you can sell your soul for a nice big paycheck, but that doesn't necessarily make you happy.
Yeah, I think it's more the reaction of people, because they almost feel guilty or bad in some way. But it's like, money is not bad. Money is good. Money is an enabler to help you do all these fabulous things.
Yeah, sure.
So we look at target market. We then look at, so what have you done before? Because let's face it, when people are interviewing you, when you're in front of a hiring manager, all they care about is, what are you going to do for me? So it's this a really frank conversation I have with my clients. It's like, oh, but I've got 20 years experience in this. It's like, so what? It's like, what did you do? What difference did you make? How did you change? How did you reduce costs, increase sales, mitigate risk? That's the 3 big things that they're thinking about. And you have to demonstrate with evidence, so with data. So you've got to know your numbers. HR people got to know your numbers, which is again why I think I can really help HR people, because I talk the language. So I know what what difference to the bottom line employee engagement makes. And I can help my clients to really just almost translate, oh, I rolled out this, well-being program. It's like, okay, great. So what? So what did that do for the business? Did that reduce absence? Did it reduce turnover? Did it increase retention? You've got to think in terms of the bottom line. That's what people are.
What value have you added?
Exactly.
What's the byproduct of what it is that you've done?
Yeah. And then just really sort of taking all of that and then building what I call a master copy CV. So it's like, get everything on your CV. I mean, and when I did this, mine was 10 pages long, right? It's like, get everything out of your head now. Like, let's walk through this treacle. Let's bring it all out. Let's get all your star stories, your situation, task, action, result. Let's get them all written. And that will help you to create your database CV. And then for each opportunity, you just pick off the bits that are appropriate for this opportunity. It's like you're a plumber and you come to a job and you bring your toolbox, right? And then you look at the problem and you go, right, this needs a wrench and a screwdriver. I'll leave the hammer in the box, and
I don't need to spend 20 minutes unloading the van when it's just
it is like literally, what tools are you bringing out? Where are you? If you had a spotlight right now, which bit of your experience are you going to shine your spotlight on? So you don't need to bring out everything. So let's get your CV right. Let's get your LinkedIn profile looking super brilliant. And then start to leverage LinkedIn, because if you're not leveraging LinkedIn, you're missing a trick.
And tell me what you mean by leveraging LinkedIn.
So number one, get your profile looking great, positioning you where you want to be found, where you want to get found, get noticed, and then get hired, get those people to see you, those hiring managers and recruiters. So get your profile looking great. Tell us what your, where your specialisms are, what you're looking for, and then start to demonstrate your expertise. So how many of my clients come to me? It's like, you've never written an article. You're missing a trick. So if I landed on your LinkedIn profile and you've written an article about, I don't know, how you pivoted the direction of your business during during COVID. I mean, that would be, there's an interview question right there. Or tell me how you implemented a wellbeing policy, during lockdown. How have you introduced hybrid working into your space? So not only are you just sharing your knowledge and expertise, but you're putting yourself out there, making it attractive for people to see your profile and go, I'd really like a bit of that in my business, please. So there's the adding connections to your network, creating content. So articles are great. There is a word limit, but it's a very, very big word limit. And daily posts, recommending people you've worked with. How many people have you recommended this week? I try and do one a week, and get in the habit of asking people for recommendations, because you can talk all day about how great you are, but if I see, I think I'm getting, back into the habit of this myself. I think I've got 60 recommendations. So if someone's thinking about working with me and they see 60 recommendations, it's like,
I'd at least be picking up the phone and talking to you. I might not be signing on the dotted line, but I'd definitely be entertaining a conversation. Most certainly with 60 recommendations. I think you make some really valid points
real.
there.
And they're real people, because you can click on their profile and go, oh, who is this person?
Oh, wow, this looks like someone who knows what they're doing, and they've probably had the Jane treatment, so they've probably got an amazing profile themselves because they've taken the Jane career advice. So it sounds like a never-ending rolling snowball of success.
It is, and it's a giver's gain, isn't it? It's like, if you want success in in your life, or if you want people to give you recommendations, you've got to give first, right? It's like networking. You've got to go in a room thinking, how can I help people today? Not what can I get for me? So you've just really got to change this mindset.
You make a valid point there. I always look at it as depositing and withdrawing. If you're someone that just wants to withdraw, there's not going to be a lot to withdraw. You've got to do a bit of depositing and a bit of withdrawing. The scales have got to be balanced.
Exactly.
So we're almost running out of time, and I do think you've given so much really useful information, not just from your own experience, but also some really good points there. What advice would you give? Two questions I want to ask. I think really end this episode beautifully. One question is, what would you say to someone that wants to get into HR? And what would you say to the HR professional that might be, like you earlier described, kind of, in a jungle at the moment, trying to navigate their way through, maybe not happy in the role that they want? What's the first step that that person should indeed take, other than call Jane Ferré?
So it's interesting. I work with I mentor students, and a lot of them want to work in HR. And the question I say is, why is it you want to go into HR? Their classic response is, because I want to help people. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? Because it's not tissues and sympathy. In HR, you are making, if you're doing HR well, you're making tough business decisions. So you're more on the side of the business. I think you tread this interesting line, but you are not always the popular person in the room. So you have to be prepared to stand up, challenge the business and challenge the people as well. So you're in this really interesting position. So you've got to be really strong, be really clear about what you stand for as an individual if you're going into be a HR, particularly in like a business partner role.
I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Point two.
And then the second question around HR people right now is, you have to make time for you, right? There will always be somebody who's picking up the phone, calling you, asking you a question right now. There's always, again, in the UK, a whole raft of legislation to figure out, and then figure out how it works in the business. But do not forget yourself in this. So if you are thinking about, I've kind of outgrown this role, I could do this in my sleep, then you have to make the time, you have to put the time aside to work on yourself, figuring out what it is that you want. And this is very often where people come to me, because they say, I've got the date in my diary. If I've got an appointment with you, I've got to turn up for it. So it helps them to just create that space. So it's like, you've got to start putting yourself first, because if you always put yourself second, you create a really dangerous precedent.
And I think that's really great advice, and a really nice way to end the episode. Really insightful, absolutely fascinating. I really enjoyed the conversation. If people want to find out more about you, Jane, where can they go to?
So my website is just my name. So it's janeferré.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. So please do connect. I offer, I post stuff daily and offer lots of job hunting tips for free. So do connect with me. Just say you saw me on here. That'd be great.
Indeed, and we will put Jane's LinkedIn profile in the show notes for this. Jane, it's been a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason. I really enjoyed it.
That was Jane Ferré from London, who does career coaching for senior HR professionals. I'm Jason Connolly. This is the Career Success Podcast. Until next time, goodbye.